Hey, welcome back everyone to the Black Brain Trust. This is episode 930. Black politics. Please hit the like button as you come in, share the video if possible, and hit that notification bell so you get all the updates from the Black Brain Trust. I'm here with my co-panelists, Nagone 11 and Man of Tomorrow.
Hey, what's up, Mike?
What up, man?
Hey, nothing much, man. We're just going to continue this political beatdown series as we started last week. This is really interesting debate between Gary Chambers and a conservative. I forget the guy's name now. Officer Tatum. Sorry, I misread his name. None of these guys are elected, but they do have great political views to represent their side, and I think that we should analyze what's being said by both sides and try to give our best analysis around it. Let's get started.
Perspectives on this show. So my next guests represent just that. One is a progressive civil rights advocate, entrepreneur, and the founder of Civics for the People. The other is a former Arizona police officer turned conservative YouTube political commentator and a staunch MAGA supporter. Please welcome back to yours truly, Straight Shooter with yours truly, the one and only Gary Chambers Jr. and Officer Brandon Tatum. Both have been on this show before. I loved having them on, so I want to invite them both back on again. What's up, fellas? How y'all doing?
Thanks, man. How you doing?
I'm doing all right.
After last night, man.
No, I'm not good. You're right. I'm not good. I'm not good after the Knicks lost, damn it. I'm not good, but I'm going to get over it for right now for the purposes of this conversation. Let's get right to it. Right now, the state of America is what in your mind, Gary Chambers? Give it to me. How do you view America right now under the Trump administration, part two?
Chaotic, divided, and unorganized. I think that the Trump administration has brought a whole lot of chaos, very few solutions to the working class people's problem, and a fundamental lack of organization. Everything within his administration is a response to something that's taking place with somebody else. He doesn't have a real plan about how to address anything. We're at war, gas prices are high, food prices are still up, and Donald Trump is lying to the people every day on TV. And the lives of regular, everyday working class people in America are not improving.
Officer Tatum, your response to that would be what, as a conservative?
Well, I disagree. I think that we're going through some growing pains, but Donald Trump has made a concerted effort to help with the economy. He's trying to get tariffs put into place. Obviously, he's getting pushback on many of those things. The war is necessary. I mean, there are certain times where we have to get into conflict with different countries. And I think that Donald Trump has a solution. I believe that we're going to resolve this war very quickly, and we're going to see gas prices go down. Us controlling the Strait of Hormuz, us controlling things in Venezuela and Cuba and all of those things, and also Trump trying to gain some leverage in Greenland. All of the things that Donald Trump is doing things that's going to improve the country, which most other presidents were too cowardice to do. So somebody have to prevent pushing the can down the road and actually taking a tough position of trying to make things better. I do think that President Trump is on the right track. I think that there's obstacles. Let's give him the rest of his term and let's see how it pan out.
Gary, when you hear somebody, and listen, it's not an accident. I wanted two black men on this show to start off something that I'm going to be doing a lot of. Black men, black women, conservatives, liberals of all ethnicities. I'm not going to shy away from any of it. But considering the fact that both of y'all are black, like myself, I wanted to ask you, when you hear Officer Tatum highlight the things that he believes that Donald Trump is doing right, and he talks about how the liberals essentially would not have done a better job, whether it's Kamala Harris, whether it's Joe Biden or whomever. When you hear what he explains and how he explains it, how can we take issue with that in your estimation?
I fundamentally disagree with him. If this war was going to be resolved as quick as Donald Trump said it would have been, it would have been resolved months ago. Instead, Brian Kemp just had to let the gas tax back into place, 33 cents added to the average Georgia driver's gas daily in order to cover the expenses of the state of Georgia, because Donald Trump started this war. The other aspect, when you look at this, this has exposed America's weakness, because you were supposed to go in there and devour this country the way that you said you would in a matter of days. And then with drones and all types of things, they've drug you into a months-long war that has increased the cost of living for the people of America. And you talk about Greenland being a benefit. I'm from Louisiana. Jeff Landry, my governor, is off on these quests in Greenland about trying to make Greenland a part of this country. My state ranks 50 in the nation. We rank number 49 in economic opportunity. We rank number 50 in crime. We have one of the worst education systems in the country and one of the most terrible healthcare systems in the country. And my governor, on the request of the president that you supported, is spending time in Greenland rather than fixing the conditions of the people of Louisiana. And so I think that conservatives do a lot of talking around issues, but when you talk about the real meat and potatoes, Mississippi, Louisiana, Alabama, South Carolina, Arkansas, some of the lowest ranked states in the country, all of their governors are Republican, all of their legislatures are super majority Republicans. So you can't tell me if the worst places to live in America are led by super majority Republicans, how in the hell are those people the answer to the problems of the American people?
I can't say I disagree with him. How many times have we talked about that on your panel, MOT, on the Black Brain Trust? Many times we've gone around the manosphere highlighting these very facts that if it was so great, why isn't it not reflected in the data?
I mean, but you had like this Democrat ran states type thing. Oh, a Democrat ran cities. And it's like, you look at these Republican ran states and they're all old Confederate, Southern, rebellious states and, who's super pro-life with bad outcomes. And I mean, like, it's hard to listen to somebody who relegate themselves to this type of environment and then try to pretend like politics isn't important or who you vote for isn't important. It's important. You know what outcomes that you want, and it isn't the conservative ones. So I don't see how there's more quote-unquote conservative support among these people when they don't even take into inventory or account the history of the actual country. And none of these people are moving to these actual conservative areas in these red states, even if they do live in a red state. So what it is, man.
We're going 11.
Yeah, the red states really, let's be very frank about it. They were not supposed to work for everyone. Okay, it was only supposed to work for a certain, back from where its ancient roots from, for the planters elite and those who are the money class and those who are, of course, of who kind of run and control, how the society runs down there. And those are the people who are your maximum beneficiaries, and that's who the system really works for. It hasn't worked for certainly for Black people and even for poor whites. We know that. So these states are subsidized heavily by the blue states, as we know. These states have the worst educational outcomes. They have the worst crime outcomes, healthcare outcomes, and so forth. And they're still riding in that mode to this very day, at this very moment. So Chambers, these guys are calling out the truth. We've been calling this truth out for a long while. A lot of these Blacks who were down there, unfortunately, are underneath these types of systems and have gotten used to it for whatever reason. Many of them do not rise up and fight as much as they should, so they accept a lot of this. There's a lot going on, and the political dynamics have to be, really have to be engaged and changed. But these systems, or this system that they have there, does not work for the overall, because it was never designed to work for the overall. Never was. And the way it is, it never will be. It never will be there, especially, and they're trying to make that around the rest of the country as well. If we don't really get involved and stand out politically to stop a lot of stuff that's actually going on. But none of that was designed to work for the overall, only a certain class of people, a group, a smaller group, and that's how it is, and that's how it's remaining at this point. Will that change? We'll see. Go ahead.
Yeah, but let folks in the manosphere tell you, vote blue no matter who your butt hurt. Add your other ad hominem hack, that the heckling people worried about
Hashtag so what? So what?
Yeah.
People worried about, you know, Letitia James in New York and Keisha Lance Bottoms and Kamala Harris, and Jasmine Crockett. Yeah, you know, what's her name out in Chicago, who used to be the mayor of Chicago, Lori Lightfoot. You know, I always find this interesting because Gary Chambers lays this out, and we've been talking about this for years in the manosphere. If conservative states and conservative leadership was so great, if conservatism was so great, why isn't it reflected in the data? Well, what about Democrat-run cities? What about Chicago? That was always the punchline, right? What about Chicago, right? And then you start to find out that Chicago is actually pretty low when it comes to violence, and the murder rate is actually going down significantly there compared to when it was, you know, 5 to 10 years ago, pre-pandemic levels. And so same thing with New York. New York, you know, a lot of people saw 1 or 2 subway incidents and thought New York was in chaos. But in reality, the data shows that, you know, subway incidents have gone down dramatically, you know, since the pandemic, you know, post-pandemic. And so people are basically having this sort of Mandela effect, right? This sort of, you remember a time when conservatism was great, but you can't seem to find it in the data.
And they only recognize crime statistics when Republicans are in office, but they completely ignore them when Democrats are in office.
Right.
Because it's always, oh, crime's down and the border's closed. I'm like, I just walked across the border from El Paso to Ciudad Juarez and back. What are you talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Like, the border's not closed. But I mean, the level of intellectual dishonesty / political laziness of these individuals is just shocking. And the only thing they want to do is be black pill nihilists and try to create a different power source out of ignorant people who don't know what's going on. So that's their new play. They feel like they have power that they don't.
All right, let's keep going.
Officer Tatum, you want to respond to that?
Yeah, this is too easy. He could walk and chew gum at the same time. Greenland is strategic when it comes to our geopolitical strength. You can't just be isolated into one area and act as if we're going to have some type of economic success across the world. We don't just live on an island by ourselves and it's just the United States of America doing business with the United States of America. But when it comes to some of these arguments about states that are run by Republicans, when you look at people who are struggling, it's these inner city communities. Majority of them are run by Democrats. Majority of them are majority black. And I don't see none of these people in these inner city communities arguing and doing anything to help their own communities. They're still complaining about Louisiana. I know a whole bunch of people that go to private school in Louisiana, or people that go to really prominent schools in Louisiana, and they're doing just fine. So if you want to argue about these inner city communities that are run majority by leftist policies and Democrats. And I'll tell you this, I hope that Mr. Chambers mentioned some of these things when Joe Biden was the president. I hope that he did. When Joe Biden did absolutely nothing when he was in office, when Joe Biden pretty much run our country down the drain, his military success was dismal. His withdrawal from Afghanistan was terrible. We were not respected around the world whatsoever. I hope that Mr. Chambers has something to say about that. And there's a reason why Mr. Donald Trump was elected president again. It's not through osmosis and because people are stupid. It's because the Democrats have done nothing and they have lied and they have been misleading the public. Donald Trump had another chance to come back because he has done so many incredible things for this country and for the black community. Mr. Chambers cannot mention one thing that the Democrats have done for the black community, and I'll mention a few that Donald Trump has, and I'll wait for him to start.
All right, well, I can follow up, Gary, but I know you were charming. You were aching to chime in with what he had to say. So go ahead. I'll give you an opportunity to respond directly to what Officer Tatum just pointed out.
Number one,
Mike, stop right here. Mike, stop right here. Stop right here. Why didn't Officer Tatum name those things that Donald Trump did? Why did he stop short of naming those things? Because there's nothing to name.
Stimmy checks.
Talk about
How you go?
the economic prosperity or the economic relationship between countries. My governor, who has the 50th ranked economy in the state of the country, you send that guy to go do the economic envoy? So first of all, if Trump's about making deals, you sent the worst negotiator possible to go represent the people of America. That's number one. Number two, you talk about the inner cities. My daughter goes to public schools in East Baton Rouge Parish school system, and it's a great school that she goes to. Number two, when you talk about that, you say this inner city. We've had a black mayor. We've never had a majority Democrat council in East Baton Rouge Parish. In the history of this parish, conservatives have always ran the government that approves the council, which approves the spending of every mayor that's ever existed. So when you talk about this majority black city, because of gerrymandering, because of racialized voting, because of the things that have harmed black people who make up 56% of the city, but we don't have a majority on the council. Let's prove another point. The East Baton Rouge Parish school system, which is 80% black, because Baton Rouge had the longest desegregation case in America. We have an 80% black school system, but a majority white Republican school board in a majority black city, because we have a legislature that continues to deny black people fair representation. So when you talk about these things, you chuckle because you don't have anything to go against these facts.
Come on with it, brother.
These facts that I'm bringing up about local government, because the reason conservatives like to talk about geopolitical things is because that's disconnected from Americans' everyday lives. The things that Donald Trump is doing is making your gas cost more money, but you're listening to this guy. It's making your groceries cost more money, but they're sending my governor to Greenland. They're making your insurance bills cost more money. Your hospitals are closing, and this guy thinks that these things are good for you.
Here you go. Let's.
When y'all gonna say something?
Yeah, I mean, like, what he's saying is right, because Officer Tatum doesn't understand that this Greenland piece that he made up, this is a new thing that we trying to get into Greenland. It's never been something that George W. Bush pushed, George Sr. pushed, Ronald Reagan pushed, Richard Nixon pushed. Like, to make it look like our military is somehow we need this piece of Greenland to be so strategic, it's nuts. It's a new thing. God, and it's like everything is just talking points and overshadowing and providing no details. And as Gary Chambers said, disconnected from the facts on the ground. You cannot blame inner city blacks and the people who run them for the conservative majority that run most of the southern states. You gonna blame black people for that? It's like, come on, dude.
Black people are not even being properly represented, and you're trying to get scapegoated for that. Now we know the reasoning behind that, to keep you out of power and so forth. But at the end of the day, you're not in the major decision making of what's going on there. But you're fighting to get your representation. You're fighting to move forward. This is key of what Gary Chambers is really talking about, and then ultimately looking at and saying, okay, we want to be represented, but look who's representing us, and look what is happening. Look what is actually going on. Where is this conservative leadership really going, and how maximally are we really benefiting from it? And it doesn't seem to match up, Mike. Doesn't seem to match up.
No, and that's always been the case, right? That people have been saying, like, well, they're not trying to take away your vote. You still, the Voting Rights Act is actually illegal. People are in the manosphere, I'm saying, are basically echoing and harmonizing racist, white nationalist talking points, conservative talking points, as of means of political discourse, as if this is actually adding value to the conversation, when what Gary Chambers is laying out is exactly why the black community is in the state that it's in a conservative state. So how do you...
While they live in liberal areas, by the way.
Yeah, while they live in California, while they live in, Miami or wherever it is. So, I don't get these guys when they say that, I just don't feel like Kamala Harris was qualified to even be a dog catcher, when you have, like Gary Chambers laid out, Governor Landry, who's one of the worst governors in the country, who's actually a conservative, who actually has, you know, a super majority or majority conservative legislature in place, no one's talking about this. No one's talking about this at all. You have people talking about bring on white supremacy. If I can't get my way, well, what is your way?
These guys don't have a way, and they don't think. I've heard commentary. You were mentioning, you know, I've heard commentary on these guys, AB Media, and these people, absolute idiots, making the dumbest statements that I've ever heard, thinking that they know what the hell they're talking about, but they're totally clueless because they don't understand politics on the ground. They just don't comprehend it and how it really works and how it's negatively affecting them. Negatively affecting us. There's some who may understand it, but are purposefully, you know, obfuscating the issue because they want to put out a certain narrative, but we have also a great degree of ignorance and stupidity that goes on because people just don't look at what's truly going on and what's really happening. Conservative, so-called leadership, if you will, for us in the Black community has not worked, will not work, and has never delivered for us, ever. So wherever you can find it, I challenge you to find it anywhere in the books, anywhere, any of your laws or any of your legislations that have come out that have been beneficial to us. It does not work for us. But these Negroes think because of Black women and their anger against them and so forth, and they have been literally conned into going against that when they're going against your whole community. They're going against your whole community. These white people are not sitting back in these areas and looking at just Black women and Black men and separating them out. They're coming at your whole community, and it affects your community absolutely in a wholesale way. Your whole community is affected, not just women or men, or they're looking out for you. The white conservatives do not have a place for you Black men like that. They don't have a place for you. You're not a part of that matrix. You're not a part of that. They don't want to bring you in there. But you guys think that you want to be brought in. But let's look at the overall results as to what's going on in these cities, towns, municipalities, and so forth that are showing you exactly how they feel about you and exactly how they see your community on the whole. Nothing has, improves across the board. It's not against Black men or just against Black women. It's against your community on the whole. And these guys don't seem to really want to grapple or deal with that.
You know, it was once said that, you know, Kathy Hochul is the Kamala Harris of New York.
An absolute idiot making that statement. An absolute idiot making that statement, and those people who are backing that up are the same. Idiots. These are idiots, but this is what's being sold in the manosphere is all good. Anyway, go ahead, Mike.
All right.
I could have sworn you just said your daughter goes to a school in this parish that you're
Public
mentioning.
schools.
A public school.
You said you brought up private school.
No, you said no. I said. Let me finish.
No.
Ain't nobody. Hold on, guys. Ain't nobody getting cut off here. This ain't television where you getting cut off in 8 minutes because you got the 8-minute segment. I ain't cutting anything. So you can listen to each other. Go ahead, Officer Tatum. Go ahead. What were you saying?
What I was saying was I was articulating how people are doing well in these private schools. You articulated that your daughter is doing well in these public schools that's all Black and controlled by white Republicans. So make your mind up. Is the white Republicans doing negative things in the inner city that's causing your daughter to go to a school that's bad, or your daughter go to a very successful school in the parish that you're talking about, run by white Republicans? Now let's get to some other things when we talk about geopolitical perspective.
What?
You know, you're saying that Donald Trump sent Landry to Greenland, like he sent them there to live, like he sent them there to be the governor of Greenland. It's Donald Trump knows who has the ability to negotiate. People have the ability to make differences and changes. Landry won because he was incredibly successful as a politician there, and then he won the governorship. And I believe he's one of the best governors you guys have had. Now, if you want to blame every single aspect of what's happening in Louisiana on one governor, then that's problematic.
Also, let me interject by saying this. First of all, every hire that Donald Trump makes, every suggestion that he makes doesn't necessarily work. He's had a lot of turnover in his administrations, both 1 and 2, number one. But I will say this to you, because it gets me to a bigger point. When we talk about geopolitics, and you look at Donald Trump, whether it's in Israel, whether it's in Iran, whether it's in Venezuela, rumors about Cuba, et cetera, you even have folks on the MAGA right side that are saying he's going against his campaign promise about putting America first. They have said that about him. How do you answer that, Officer Tatum?
I think I disagree. You know, there's a difference between saying we don't want endless wars that don't make sense and that we can't have a war at all. You know, when you have Iran getting a nuclear weapon, that's existential threat to the United States of America and all of our allies in the region. And the United States of America isn't the only country that's participating in stopping Iran from having a nuclear weapon. The UAE, Saudi Arabia, some of these other Muslim nations that don't want terrorists in their region are in lockstep with the United States of America and Israel to fight in those efforts. So I understand why Donald Trump has engaged in this. Donald Trump has never gotten us into an endless war like we were in Afghanistan and Iraq. I do believe that Donald Trump is going to get us out of this war. We're not going to stay in it, in perpetuity. He's going to get his mission accomplished, and then we're going to get out of there. That's my faith towards what Donald Trump has done historically and what I believe he's going to do currently. We haven't been there for a year, and Donald Trump has, and our military have controlled all of their military assets. They really have no leverage. That's why you don't see conflict back and forth. We're in that region, controlling the region. And that's the difference between us getting in the war and it's out of control and we don't know, what's coming next. They don't have any retaliatory availability against our United States military. They do not. I don't even think they have a Navy. So when we're looking at these things, it's a difference between having Trump derangement syndrome and saying everything he does is bad and saying, let me get a man a chance to prove himself. Now, if he's in war, we in war in that country for a year, 2 years, then me and you can have this conversation again. But until Donald Trump get an opportunity to finish what they started, then I'm going to support what he's doing.
Gary, let me...
I will tell you, waiting to chime in. What he says makes no sense at all. I don't even think he understands what he's saying.
I think he came there with a free script. Like, he said a bunch of things that meant wait and see. It's too early to tell. Not, we shouldn't have been there in the first place.
Right.
To say, well, Iran doesn't need a Navy. They're at home.
Yeah.
You need to actually attack them. They're in a dug-in position. You're not going to control the strait. What is he talking about? And it's like, he supports whatever he does, is yada, yada, yada. I support what he does. You have to wait and see. It's too early to tell. No actual idea about we shouldn't be there in the first place. Like right now, we have this so-called deal. Guess who attacked and got the deal over with? Israel, immediately, the day after, right? And then Iran retaliated. So what is he talking about? Like, this stuff is going to keep going on forever. These people, if it was a Democrat in charge, they would totally be on the other side of not wanting wars and all this stuff. You're dealing with puppetized automatons who don't care. They just want to be in charge. None of the facts matter.
Right. And they only want to be in charge through democratic rule.
Yes.
That's it.
They have no interest in doing anything policy based. Let's finish playing this.
Transition to you by asking this question. When you listen to what Officer Tatum has to say, to cliff note it from a generic perspective, he's talking about placing faith in a president that is Donald Trump, who he considers to be far better than anything the liberals have offered in recent memory. Because ultimately it harkens back. Every time I run across independents or conservatives, they're looking at what the Democratic Party hasn't done for the black community, and they're asking the question, why should the community's faith be placed in that party? Why not try something new, even if it is Donald Trump? To that, you explain what?
Number one, I would say that I want to address that he brought up that Iran can't handle us. The retaliation from Iran is economic retaliation. They are forcing the American people to have an economic pressure right now that may cost Donald Trump the midterm elections.
That's talking about the Strait of Hormuz? You talking about the Strait of Hormuz?
Closing the strait and costing the American people money every single day that strait is closed. That's number one. Okay. Number two, when you talk about Democrats versus conservatives, right now in this country, a conservative majority Supreme Court is stripping away power from black people to serve in Congress. Now, he can shake his head at that, but why does that matter? Because as somebody black in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, where Louisiana elected the first black person to Congress in the history of this country, Willis Menard, in the 1800s. Willis Menard was denied the ability to serve in Congress because a person who was from Congress who later became president said that it was not time for a black man to serve in Congress. You follow that up and you go 100 years later before William Jefferson is elected to Congress in the late 1980s. William Jefferson, Cleo Fields, Cedric Richmond, Troy Carter, 4 people in the history of this country that are black have served in Congress from the state of Louisiana. In that same time, 170 plus white men have gone to Congress from Louisiana in the same period of time. But you're sitting here telling me that this is a fair system to black people. And the people who are orchestrating taking away that power from black people is Donald Trump and his Supreme Court. And as a black person who lives in one of the impacted communities, this is the first time in my lifetime since I was 6 that a black person represented me in Congress from all of Baton Rouge. What does that mean? It means that Southern University, the only HBCU system in America, is finally getting financial appropriations from the federal government to improve the campus of Southern University so that young black children can be educated up on that campus. When Gary Graves was there, he wasn't sending any money to Southern University, but Cleo Fields surely is. And that matters to black people who are from Baton Rouge, who live in North Baton Rouge, where that is an anchor within our community economically.
So he's in an affected community, but his daughter goes to a prominent school that's doing very, very well. She's doing great, and it's run by white people. Now let's go to the point. Let's go to the point where you make this point about. Hold on,
officer. Gary, what's not true about what he just said?
The school system is ran by a black man, that is Lamont Cole, and the school that my daughter attends is a magnet school in the public school system because my family decided to put my daughter in early childhood education, and we had the resources in order to provide for her. My daughter goes to one of the best schools in East Baton Rouge Parish school system. Now, I'm not talking about the majority of the school system, and the original point that I made was about Louisiana's public schools ranking number 47 in the country.
All right, let me you just proved my point, my man. A black man run this school and is very successful, and a black family has an opportunity to put their black daughter in a very prominent and successful school in Louisiana. So the white man don't have no power over what you can accomplish if you guys put your stuff together, get your stuff together, and do the right thing. Now let's get to this whole thing about.
Here we go with the bootstrap politic.
Gaslighting.
How many times have we heard this in the black manosphere? Same talking point.
That's all you hear. Bootstraps.
Yeah, Monahan report, bootstraps. And the thing here is, even when he's corrected by Gary Chambers, he just said yada yada yada. Let's move on to the next thing. Nah, we gotta correct everything that you said that was wrong, and you don't know what you're talking about because you're not down there. And the
you're
thing
wrong,
here is,
Daddy.
Oh yeah,
you're wrong, Daddy.
You're wrong, Daddy.
You're wrong, Daddy. Fucking clown. But anyway, go ahead.
And the thing here is, even when he's corrected, he still doesn't understand what he's actually saying that was incorrect. He just doesn't even understand.
Exactly.
That it's more nuanced than just saying a black man runs the school system. No, the black man runs his school. That's the difference. It runs his school within the school system that is totally run by conservatives in the legislature. That's the difference. That's the nuance. But he doesn't want to highlight this because he doesn't want to hold white conservatives accountable for anything. He doesn't see anything wrong with how the states run, despite what the fucking data says. This is the part of the problem that I have with black men who identify as conservative. They're always pandering and running interference for white conservatism and white nationalism, and then pretending as if they have the best interest of the black community. No, you don't. You don't.
But at least Brandon Tatum is actually saying that he's a conservative. You got a lot of people around here who making all the same points Brandon Tatum is making and saying that they're third party or middle of the road, but they make only anti-democratic points and they require nothing out of the Republican Party.
Require nothing out of the Republican Party. And also show that their so-called conservative or whatever conservative policies, if these people are even dealing with policy, does not work for your community. Doesn't work because you've excluded. The name of the game is to see to it that you don't get X, Y, and Z. The conservative move is not to incorporate it. You're not to be involved. You're not in. Where have we seen any so-called conservative policies or so forth that these people are talking about benefit us. You'll never hear anything from them. Never. But these are your conservatives, your black conservatives, and this is what's going on here in the manosphere. And people like Gary Chambers are calling this out routinely. I don't hear these folks speaking on it. Anyway, go ahead, Mike.
Race. You're saying black people represent me. It ain't about race. It's about whether a person can represent the constituency or not. Are they effective or are they not? Because it doesn't matter about the color of somebody's skin, because we had a black president that did nothing for black people. He did nothing. Donald Trump did more for black people than Barack Obama could ever dream of. When you talk about loan guarantee, or not loan guarantees, when you talk about money that has been guaranteed given to HBCUs, Donald Trump secured that and Obama could never secure that. When you talk about opportunity zones, when you talk about the First Step Act, that's legislation that was passed under President Donald Trump that Barack Obama would never in his life dream of doing. You cannot name one thing that Barack Obama has done. You cannot name one thing that a black politician who's a Democrat has done to help the black people in your community or communities across the United States of America. You can't name one. And then let me say this. You keep saying that somehow the white man is making sure black people are not serving in Congress. There's a ton of black Democrats that are serving in Congress. There's a ton of them. I mean,
they're attempting to take their seats.
You said, excuse me?
And they're attempting to take their seats.
Attempting to take their seats through what?
The Supreme Court gerrymandering their seats away.
That's where I was going next. With the whole redistricting and gerrymandering issue, that's exactly where I was going next. Go ahead, Officer Davis.
This is where the gentleman, Mr. Chambers, you're wrong. In many of these cases, the reason that the redistricting did not work out, especially in Louisiana and other places, because they were doing it based on race, and that is not constitutional. And so if you're going to say you need to redistrict because black people need a benefit or black people should be represented, white people can't do that either. So that is the reason why some of the redistricting and lines being drawn was denied by the Supreme Court, is because they did it based on race. This is what black people have been fighting for so many years, is that you cannot make those decisions based on race. And when they try to make them based on race, they were denied in the Supreme Court.
Officer Tatum, I respect where you're coming from. I guess my pushback, and I'll let Gary chime in a second. I just want to add my 2 cents here. I guess where I chime in, I feel compelled to chime in. When we think about civil rights, when we think about the Voting Rights Act, when we think about things of that nature, I'm looking at it from the standpoint that once upon a time, okay, even though a lot of us will look at it, racism still exists. It might not be as obvious in a lot of people's eyes, but there's no question that racism still exists. Make no mistake about it. And we ain't gonna get around that. But the point is, it was so glaring, it was so flagrant, whether it was Jim Crow laws or anything else, okay, in the 60s and beyond, or even before that. The reality of the situation is the laws that came into play were necessary. And so why were they necessary? Because we had a community within our country that were taking advantage. They had the power. They obviously were exploiting it at every turn. And it took federal legislation to be implemented in order for us to negate the kind of momentum they were continuing to build and build and build for decades, if not longer. So my point is that when we sit up there and we say, well, you know what, redistricting and gerrymandering and these issues had to be addressed because people were making decisions based on race. I'm like, but that's because decisions beforehand were made by race, were made on the basis of race, but it was just by the side and power. How can we ignore that reality that it was compelled? How can we ignore that?
Which were the Democrats. So Mr. Chambers claimed that I'm assuming he claimed he's a Democrat. I'm assuming that he voted for Democrats. He's saying that Democrats would do a better job than Republicans, even in his state. But the people who were implementing these things that were against black people, Jim Crow and all of the above, were all Democrats. Slavery was initiated by Democrats. Republicans are the ones that abolished slavery. Republicans are ones that majority voted for and passed the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment unanimously. It was not the Democrats.
They
Democrats
can't get around.
The Dixiecrats were the ones that were prejudiced and racist against black people. And so I would like for Mr. Chambers to acknowledge at least that the history of racism and prejudice and putting black people aside were perpetuated by Democrats. And they're lying today, acting as if Republicans are doing these things. When you look at the majority of black cities are run by Democrats, and they've run it into the ground. The murder capital of this country is a Democrat-run city that's full of black people. Why is that the case?
Gary, go ahead.
Okay. He said a whole lot of things. Number one, white supremacy is what I'm against. I'm not sitting here arguing with you about Democrat or Republican. White supremacists were orchestrating these things against black people. Now, do white supremacists switch political parties? Yes. In America, they were Democrats in the beginning, they're Republicans today. And the proof of that is Steve Bannon and the likes of those folks are in the Republican Party. Stephen Miller is in the Republican Party. The Project 2025 comes out of the Republican Party. I'll let you finish, now let me cook. When you go furthermore, when you talk about the lack of things that have happened for black people, I just told you a Republican represented me in Congress for a decade, Gary Graves. Now a damn thing happen for North Baton Rouge economically while Garrett Graves, a white Republican, was in Congress. I'm not talking about in 1965. I'm talking about in the time that I have been a voter, voting for the people that were able to be elected within my congressional district. Until Cleo Fields was there, where they gave black representation, there was not a $9 million investment happening within 5 minutes away from my home. 5 minutes away from my home, there's a $9 million investment where young black people are going to be able to go in the community and enjoy themselves because of Congressman Cleo Field. That kind of stuff wasn't happening in my neighborhood when Garrett Graves was in Congress, the white Republican. Furthermore, when you dig deeper into the conversation about the impact for black people from Democrats, if you look at how these things work to be effective, I understand government very well. Local government relies on state government and federal government to help them meet the needs of the people because the resources are limited. If the local government is being boxed out by the state government, which happens all the time here in Louisiana, if you have a Republican governor, they're going to help Republican elected officials in those cities. Or you have a governor like Jeff Landry, who has been targeting New Orleans ever since he became the governor. You talked about Jeff getting elected. He got elected, Stephen, with 19% of registered voters in the state of Louisiana. 19%. We're not talking about a man who was elected with an overwhelming majority. The election turnout was so low in the election that only 19% of the registered voters in this state voted for him. 500,000 people. There are 925,000 registered black voters in Louisiana. The reason Louisiana continues to be in this condition is because now this is where you could agree with me on something. The Democratic Party continues to fail black candidates as well. The Democratic Party continues to think that white is right all the time, and they end up losing in races where they could be more competitive because they won't invest. Right now, you have a brother running in Mississippi for the U.S. Senate in Scott Colon. Scott Colon is a district attorney in Mississippi that's already elected. How much money has the Democratic put in the Scott campaign to beat Cindy in Mississippi? He has a real shot. He has a real shot because Mississippi is 38% black, Stephen.
Let me ask you this. Hold on for a second. Let me ask you this question, because sticking with this gerrymandering issue, the black vote, states impacted. Your state, Louisiana, obviously. Texas, Ohio, North Carolina, South Carolina. Those are the primary states affected. I'd ask you this question. Considering everything that you just highlighted and everything that you just said, Gary, how would you explain the fact that Trump gained black voters in the last election?
I think that the Democrats do a terrible job talking to black people. I think that the Democrats do a terrible job talking about the issues that are important to black people. I think that though the Democrats have a better economic plan for making the economy work, the data proves, even when you brought up the war, put us in the forever war. George Bush put us into the 20-year war that we ended up in that cost America billions of dollars on end. Republicans put us in economic peril and Democrats dig us out. When Barack Obama took office in 2008, the economy was in a trash can. When he left office in the end of 2016, he gave Donald Trump a prosperous economy that he ran into the trash can. Joe Biden pulls it up a little bit. Donald Trump runs it back into the trash can, and Joseph here sits there and tells us that that's the solution for the American people.
But Gary, how can you say, like for example, Biden ran it back into the trash can when it wasn't just him, it wasn't just Obama, it was Trump too, and I get it, George W. Bush as well. We got a $39 trillion debt. Every administration has contributed to that. These cats spend money. They're not saving. They're not cutting. They're not investing.
Who started the war though that contributed to the debt and sending us way into the left?
Serious.
Conservatives.
Serious.
When Bill Clinton left office, the debt was going down. He was taking the debt down under Bill Clinton. George Bush comes in, and we haven't come back yet. So we have to. One of the things that I hate about the way we do politics. Please slow down. One of the things I hate about the way we do politics is we act like we can't remember what the cause of a thing is. We talk about all of the symptoms, all of the things that happen after that, but how did we get here? And if we deal with the very beginning of a thing, we can begin to fix it. When you talk about this gerrymandering thing, Stephen, to button that up, I'm from the city where the men who filed the lawsuit are from. I know some of the people who filed this lawsuit. I know they're racist. We don't have to ask anybody, are some of these people racist individuals? I've sat at lunch with these individuals. I know that they don't support black candidates when they run for office in this community. I know very well that some of these individuals mean well in their heart on certain things, but when you get to talking about race, they cannot see past certain issues because they feel like in some way we are taking something from them when the reality is we have never had this.
All right.
You know, Gary is a breath of fresh air, man. Because he really lays this out, and we've been laying this out in the manosphere for probably since the first Trump administration that this is an issue, right? When you really, like he talked about the local politic, that local governments rely on state and federal dollars coming in. But this is a part of the Voting Rights Act that we have spoken about, that if you don't have that representation there to advocate at the local level for your issues at the state and federal level, you're not going to be able to get that. But you have people in the manosphere who are saying, well, I don't see anything wrong with, the Voting Rights Act being taken away by the Supreme Court. I think that, you're not supposed to have, racially selected areas, in terms of the Voting Rights Act. That's exactly what that's for. That's exactly what the Voting Rights Act was based on. But you have these people who are arguing that you don't need that. And these are black people who argue this.
These are white supremacists. These are black white supremacists. They believe in the system maintaining its quo. That's how it is. They are conservatives. They want to have the system conserved to maintain that status. And that's it. They do not believe that they should be in a power position. They don't believe that they should have power. They don't believe that they should be involved in determining their own paths. They believe the white man should be doing that for them. There's not much else to really say. These guys are white supremacists, shine bones, coon, however you want to break them down. The worst that our community has to offer, and this is what these guys represent: the very worst, the nadir of what our community truly should stand for. These guys are the worst, and they need to go. But at the end of the day, we should highlight these people because it's important for you to see this, and listen to their horrific reasoning, and show them that who they really represent, what they really are about. These are not black people. These are white supremacists.
MLT?
I mean, overall, at this point, if you're allowed to miss Henry, just try to do this 1-2 punch type thing and ignoring the people who are having their votes removed from Congress while they're all out. I mean, you just can't really have a real conversation about anything, because most of this stuff is about political obfuscation and deliberate misinformation, so that way you give up. And these people are doing this stuff from liberal areas in conservative states or liberal areas in liberal states, but they want people who live in majority conservative states to somehow hold their vote hostage when that's not how they operate at home. Like, they don't have a funding issue at home, right? But they motivate everybody else to fight in unacceptable formats or try to create a bunch of hostages so that way they can be able to have a foothold and having people come to them to have a conversation about progress. They can't really do that with people like this.
Let me jump in here.
Go ahead.
There's a real big issue with liberal-minded black people in this country because they want to be overly reliant on the government. That's the biggest problem. And so they think the government is their daddy. They think the government gonna fix everything, and that is a huge problem. Democrats have done nothing, as the gentleman has explained. They've absolutely done nothing. And there's so many things I want to touch on. Barack Obama, he said, I agree with him on this point. Let's agree on this, that every president has run us into debt. And you can't forget that 9/11 happened, that ran us into debt. George Bush got us in the war, but the rest of the presidents kept us in the war. Barack Obama didn't pull us out of the war. Many of these other presidents that preceded him could have got us out of the war, but they didn't. Do you not remember when Barack Obama gave pallets of money in the middle of the night to Iran? I mean, so we cannot act like Donald Trump is the only one that's getting us in some war.
But it wasn't just giving them money. It was basically pulling the constraints off of money that the United States government actually owed Iran at the time.
In the middle of the night, they gave them money. I
know that, but I'm talking about what the cause, what the reason for it was. It was actually their money, as opposed to
inform me on what you're talking about.
And there ain't no way in the world we should be.
Say it again, MOT.
I said he was literally explaining Officer Tatum's point about why he's lying, and Officer Tatum, he keep trying to rebut the actual point to make it look like the United States was giving Iran something that wasn't theirs.
You were giving Iran back their own money that we took in '79. We took their money. We froze their assets. This was money we were giving back to Iran with interest that we took because of the hostage situation that went on, and the sanctions that we laid on. That was not money that we gave them. We gave them back their money with interest.
But the thing here is, he should, him being a sports analyst, Stephen A. Smith, he should keep a technical foul a scoreboard up there for how many times this guy omits the truth of what he's actually saying. He's misstating the actual case, for the purpose of scoring a political point within the discussion on purpose. And this
misinformation.
It's the misinformation aspect of all of this. But we see this type of stuff in the manosphere, right? A lot of guys talk about, well, Letitia James, she's been sitting on those deed theft claims, cases, and she hasn't taken action on it, not understanding what deed theft is or what title fraud is and how a case is actually processed by an attorney general, versus the district attorney and the other prosecutorial body that actually does all of this sort of work. But that's the sort of political discourse that we have in the manosphere going as well. If you took Brandon Tatum and dropped him on Yuppity Yup's panel, you would get the same exact sort of feedback.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Be giving a terrorist money, and the way in which he did it was secretive, because he did it in the middle of the night with pallets of money. So he contributed to Iran's proliferation of hatred and terrorism, which then had led to us to actually have to do something about it right now. But I want to get to this racism thing. I know Stephen Miller. Stephen Miller is not a racist. Jeff Landry. I know Jeff Landry. He invited me to go gator hunting with him before he was governor. Jeff Landry is not a racist. The problem is, man, you can agree with their policies and say that they're a bad politician. Well, then go and get a better politician. But to act like these people are racist, Donald Trump is racist. I know Donald Trump. I've met Donald Trump several times. These people are not racist. And when you guys say racism, you cheapen what real racism is, and you're not getting to the core crux of what's going on.
Okay, so explain what a racist is then.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah, explain what that is, so that because we've heard these same talking points in the manosphere, right? That somehow, some way, Trump couldn't possibly be a racist because he rubbed elbows with hip hop artists.
I mean, these are pure shines. Nobody even talks about. Is that the case? We know plenty of Southern slave owners that had kids and put their own children into slavery. What about that? Come on. I mean, it's ridiculous. This is a ridiculous argument. I mean, Tatum is a pure ultra shine. We know that, and he's on his grift. So he has to maintain the position that he has taken. He has to do it. He can't back out of it.
He is an omni-shine. I mean, he's always charging, no matter what it is. I mean, I don't know what's up with this dude or how he gets to be on TV and not be constantly corrected. He gets away with misstating stuff, and he kept misstating the Iran point after he was brought up to speed on what actually happened, and he kept misstating it right after being brought up to speed, not brought to any level of account for him doing it. Unreal.
Well, that's
fugitive information.
Fugitive.
If you don't like the policy position, just say you don't like the policy position. I don't like any politician that's getting us into debt. I don't care if you're a Republican or a Democrat. But at the end of the day, when you look at leftist, liberal, Democrat policies, they destroy this country more than any other political party. Let me just give you an example. And this is what they're doing to destroy black people. Letting all these illegal aliens into this country, unvetted, unfettered. They come in here by the tens of millions. And now what does that do for black people? Those jobs, low income, or the startup jobs, entry-level jobs, the labor jobs, all these illegals are taking those jobs from black folks. When you talk about government assistance, black people who actually need it. When you talk about resources that can be given to these inner city schools, resources that can be given to black people and building their community, where are they going? To illegal aliens. All of these things that the Democrats are doing, what else are they pushing? They pushing transgenderism. They pushing all kinds of stuff. And
every single point.
Reparations. We had a black president. Why didn't he mention reparations one time while he was the president? Not one time did Barack Obama mention reparations or say he was going to give reparations or did anything about reparations. It's just a pony show, man. I feel like the Republicans actually have a
Tatum's for reparations.
Everybody in America.
Okay.
And it's just not black people because.
Okay, so who's talking to the conservative administration right now, the MAGA administration right now about reparations? Who?
Yeah, Republicans run everything now, so you wanted to get it done.
But last year, Trump said himself, I think that white folks deserve reparations because of how they were treated during the Civil Rights Act.
That's right.
He said this, okay? He said all of this. And Tatum and none of these muckety mucks have anything to say about this administration and how they regard reparations. It was J.D. Vance in 2024 who said himself on PBS, I think it was on PBS, that he doesn't think that black farmers who are black men deserve reparations.
Said it.
To be compensated. He doesn't think that, okay? You have Mitch McConnell, Republican, doesn't think that, reparations, he doesn't think that black people deserve reparations. John Kennedy out of Louisiana, where Gary Chambers is from, doesn't believe that, black people deserve reparations, okay? Tom Cotton, the list goes on and on and on. Mark Wayne, who's in charge of DHS right now, another guy who doesn't believe in reparations. Where's all these reparations advocates, these ADOS folks talking to Republicans about reparations right now? I don't see any of them talking about that.
The reparations argument is not even on the table with these people, but yet, you even have white Republicans who are going against Trump right now, talking about that reparations move you're trying to make towards these January 6th, these other people that you're trying to do.
Can't do it.
We're not even going to support that. But yet, this is where this guy was moving, and all these reparations folks running around here are silent, especially these reparation moonshine negroes are silent.
Law and order reparations.
Silent on this issue. But yet here we are talking about this, and you got this Shine Tatum sitting here talking about that right now, trying to keep his. Of course, this is all part of his grift. It's part of his game. But this is what he's running, and it sounds crazy.
Just because your skin color is black, in my opinion, in America, it doesn't mean anything. It's who are you as a person? What do you want to see this country do? That means more than your race.
Gary, you could say I'm the confused one of the three of us here, because obviously you on the left, he's on the right. I get that part. I would like to explain before you chime in, Gary, what my position is and why I'm so happy to be talking to the both of y'all right now. Because on one hand, I can sit up there and I can feel obviously a bit differently than Officer Tatum when it comes to, racism really being a poignant issue in this country. But nevertheless, I do relate to what he's saying from the standpoint that bringing it up and constantly leaning on it doesn't get us too many places. At some point in time, you got to handle your business. You're going to have to deal with the adverse circumstances, whatever they may be, and you're going to have to adapt and overcome. That's what I try to lean on. And as a registered independent, the reason why I say I'm a registered independent is because I don't want either party to believe they have my vote lock, stock, and barrel. Earn it, flatter me, show me that you got a plan in place, that you're trying to do something, if not directly for my community, policies that would affect America in a very positive way, enough for me to say that my community can benefit from it. That's how I'm looking at it. Others may think otherwise, but I'm just saying, Gary, when I think about it and I address it that way, what do you say to the argument that when you listen to an Officer Tatum and he's talking about the plight of the black community, and how leaning on a Democratic Party hasn't necessarily worked for us? You yourself have said you've been critical of Democrats yourself because they don't know how to talk to our community. There's a lot of things they don't do for our community other than give us lip service to some degree. You didn't leave it at just that, but you implied that to some degree. What do you say to Republicans and anybody for that matter that points to the Democratic Party and the black community and say, what have you done for us? When are you going to really do something substantive for us rather than just come to us every 2 days?
I wanted to stop it here because I've heard this argument before made by people who claim to be independent. And I'm not trying to take anything away from them. But they always say, you got to earn my vote. Okay, so what's the earning policy that drives your vote? And then whenever you ask this question, you never seem to get an actual response, right? So what's that colorless, sort of policy that or on the agenda item that you're interested in that moves your vote? You never seem to get that. Okay, you have two people on the ballot right now. You had Trump and you had Kamala. One had an agenda for black men, the other one didn't. The other one had Project 2025. What was the galvanizing? What was the policy that was galvanizing your vote as a registered independent?
Those registered independents or those shines voted to go against their own community. That's essentially what they voted for. They voted for the Voting Rights Act getting gutted. They voted for DEI and so forth getting gutted. They voted for all of these things to get destroyed based on the fact that They have no they have hatred for this black female. However this is laid out, and they bought into the immigrant bullshit game and blamed all the problems that they say that's going on in your community on immigrants, on immigration. And all of that has been debunked. We see exactly where a lot of that lies at this stage. And they're still pushing it. But yet that's where it is, because at the end of the day, what do these Negroes want? These Negroes want proximity to whiteness. They want how would I say, the privileges of whiteness that they've been denied, that they're not getting, but somehow they think they're going to get that by way of Trump, by cutting you back to the fat meat and saying this is how you're going to advance. That's the only reasoning that I can come up with. Cut you out of the game and say you're going to advance that way. Just like you're going to get a hell of a lot more if you don't vote and don't participate, other than participating. You'll do a lot better by not participating than participating. These are the things that are being sold. This is what these guys have bought into. Very, very destructive. Very destructive. And these people who are preaching this need to be challenged every step of the way and removed. Because their plan, what they're talking about, doesn't make sense. It doesn't move you anywhere forward. They're lying about it being independent and so forth. They're going against their own community and against themselves, thinking it's going to bring them to white proximity and how would I say, benefits or beneficial treatment. If you can't call that insanity, I don't know what it is.
What I don't get about these independents, they sure as hell never live in conservative areas in conservative states, and they never live in conservative areas in liberal states. They always seem to be independent from all these liberal areas. That's very strange. I don't want nobody to have my vote locked up. Yeah, but you do want the economic outcomes from a very specific party, right? But that's just where we're at. I mean, I don't believe political independence or anything. I just ask them where to live in. I'm like, okay, great, you're a liberal.
What are their interests? What are their interests? What are their interests? Like Mike said, what are their interests? You never get an answer, and there's a reason for that.
Yeah, but you have to understand that their interest is watching the Republican Party destroy any attempts at progress and then claim both of the parties are the same.
Claiming that they're the same. I mean, it's crazy. But that's how they duck it. But that's their duck and fade move from saying, hey, listen, I support white supremacy. I support white supremacy against my own. I pray that these guys will bring me in, give me, the white privilege. But these guys want a white privilege. They want the same privileges. All right. They want all the benefits, okay, of the whites. But these guys don't have plans on giving that to you. But they think if you lay back and don't shake up the waters, or however, you're going to get it by laying back. By laying back and non-participate. Show them that you don't want to participate. Show them that you're against your own. That's going to give you a stronger leg up. Just think about that reason. It's horrifying.
Vote for you.
The reason these conversations frustrate those of us who really do this work is what Officer Tatum did was a bunch of dog wagging the tail or chasing the car. I gave very specific examples of how Cleo Fields as a congressman brought investment into my community as a Democrat, as a Black Democrat. I said that multiple times. I talked about how Garrett Graves was in Congress representing me for over a decade and did not bring investment into my community. I'm not talking about what's happening in Iran. I'm talking about what's happening in East Baton Rouge Parish. I'm telling you that if gas costs more money today, and he's talking about transgender. I'm telling you that people's energy bills and hospitals are closing, and that the people that I support have a plan for that, and he's telling you about something happening somewhere else. Can I cuss, Stephen?
Yes, you can.
It's a mind fuck. It's a consistent mind fuck that Republicans try to take us on by talking about things that they know rile up all of these moral issues with a bunch of immoral leaders. Like Donald Trump
but my only pushback is when you say mind fuck, that ain't just confined to the Republican Party. There's a whole bunch of Democrats that give us some mind fucking. They do some mind fucking too now.
What you know, Stephen, is that the person who does the best at the media owns the day, okay? You do a phenomenal job at owning this fucking stage that you have, so you own the day in sports on a regular basis, and it has built you to where you are. Donald Trump has understood how to own the media, so much so he took out every conservative that was supposed to be a legitimate conservative contender when he ran for office because he understood how to own the day on the media. He does not know how to solve problems of the American people, and the proof is in the results of your expenses, having less money in your bank account. There are less money in the savings accounts of Americans today than when Donald Trump took office. Why is that? People are spending more money. People are spending more money on their credit cards today than when Donald Trump took office. Why is that? So he asked the questions about. He said this man, propagandist, put a damn McDonald's uniform on, went to McDonald's, gave out some French fries, acting like he was cared about working class people. And the people who work in those same restaurants, he would not raise their wages. He would not give them a raise. He would not raise the minimum wage in America. It's $7.25. So if Donald Trump cares about working class people, right? If he really cares about the people who work at McDonald's, get Mike Johnson, get the president of the Senate to raise the minimum wage. Now he's going to say raising the wages of American people doesn't matter. Well, you're spending their damn tax dollars to bomb the Iranian people. You're spending their damn tax dollars to go kidnap the president of Argentina. You're spending their, is it Argentina or is it Venezuela? Okay, Venezuela. You're sending people to Argentina to lock them up. You're spending my tax dollars to do everything. You're sending my governor of the 50th ranked state to Greenland, but you can't fix my pothole. You can't give me a new bridge. You can't give me a community center in the community. Don't tell me nothing about no opportunity zone if you ain't got a community center in the gym in the neighborhood where the kids need the opportunity.
Can I jump in here?
Listen, man. Listen, man. You want to talk about getting cooked? That's exactly how you deal with this sort of conservative filibustering and manosphere logic. You have to bring up the compare and contrast. Who's doing what at the time that they're supposed to be doing something? And what Gary Chambers just laid out, it's exactly what the problem is with conservative politics, is that they're always deflecting with the culture war so that they don't have to take ownership of the actual policy legislative issue of the day. You can't get out of this anymore at this point. I mean, he has Officer Tatum pinned down to a point where he has nothing, there is no real rebuttal that you can have to that. The data supports everything that Gary Chambers is saying, that Louisiana is like 50th and Indiana is like 49th or 48th or something to that effect. And Mississippi is down there too, as well as Alabama, as well as South Carolina, Florida as well. These are all conservative run states, and yet these guys are pretending, some of these guys will pretend that, Democrat run cities. Obama never did anything for you. It's like, where do you come up with this in 2026? In 2014, you could have probably said something like this. In 2012, you could have said something like this. But right now, that just doesn't make any sense.
So you're supposed to spend your entire response bringing them up to speed, so that way now you're moving on to the next point. This is what I mean by ill-moderated panels and people saying BS without even getting checked on it.
First of all, that's not done. That's local.
Go ahead, Mike.
A lot of stuff. You said you weren't
Federal
going to
money
talk
comes to the local
about. Let me
level.
say, you said you weren't going to talk about foreign stuff, and you throwing in foreign wars and all that. Your potholes are not Donald Trump's problem or no federal president's problem. That's the mismanagement of state funds. That's a state issue. Your schools and parks and your city is a city and state local.
Do they all get federal funding?
That has nothing to do. That has nothing to do with the president. If you want to make it primarily his fault.
But I'm gonna let you go on, Officer Tatum. Just answer that one question.
Hey, Mike, can you hold You see how these guys try to obfuscate the facts and don't want to talk about how things work? They don't want to talk about how things work, really, but try to obfuscate the fact, run off, not talk about things, how things work from the federal or right down to the state, to the local, to your community, municipal, block by block level. It all comes down. These folks don't ever want to get into that. So once you start doing that, then you start truly seeing where your problems really line up. Just not talking about from the federal, but from the local as well. But listen to this guy, trying to obfuscate that and say that that's not important, showing you how they don't want to show you how things actually truly work, how things work. They don't want you to be up on that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, supposedly, you know, Republicans are tapping into the working class. It seems like the working class are paying more for groceries and not getting the, you know, a bump in minimum wage, and, you know, repossessions are up for vehicles and whatnot. You know, people are not paying their car insurance. I think like 1 in every 3 vehicles on the road don't have actual uninsured vehicles or unregistered at this point. This is all happening under this administration, and people are pretending like, you know, everything is fine. You know, black men getting pushed out of federal positions and, you know, private positions. We covered this weeks ago, if not a month or so ago, and no one's talking about this. Aren't those black men a part of the working class? Black women getting pushed out. You know, black women losing 300,000 jobs. Aren't they a part of the working class? How does the Republican Party respond to working class politics?
None of this is addressed. None of it by these Negroes. But they want to
but they've never addressed it at no point in time, and it's always obfuscated when it is barely even brought up. So I don't, yeah.
That's the case. Do they not all get federal funding?
No, in part, not every single.
And they could get more federal funding if they were spending it on a war.
Let him go, Gary.
Think about this. This is where he's convoluting things. If you're claiming that Landry is in the pocket or best friends with President Donald Trump, you would think that he would have all the federal funding that he needs, and therefore Louisiana has a lot of federal funding. So you shouldn't be complaining about it. But at the end of the day, that's not really the solution. There are federal funds that do go towards some things that matriculate down to local policy, but that's not the crux of it. It's poor spending by some of these states and cities are mismanaged. That's why you can't get your pothole fixed. That's not a president thing. And then let's talk about this country, and let's talk about who has a solution and who doesn't. Democrats do not have a single solution for none of this stuff. They are doing racism. President Trump, I told you, opportunity zones was a federal thing. They gave federal funding to underserved black communities. Donald Trump ending or shutting down the border, not letting illegal aliens bombard our country, voting in our elections, taking resources and money from our government, which is hurting black people and America as a whole. Also influxing people that come into this country that don't believe in American values, that do not want to assimilate. They are tearing our country apart. Those things have been solved by President Trump in the Republicans' message. The Democrats are not offering anything. This is why, like, for instance, I bet Mr. Chambers cannot argue why Kamala Harris would have been better than President Donald Trump. Why would she have been better? What did she actually run on? What was her actual message? That's why black people didn't vote for her. That's why she lost in a landslide to President Trump, whom you say hadn't done nothing for the country. He got another chance because he has a solution that none of these Democrats are pushing. And it's really, to me, it's not about Democrat, Republican. Democrats just happen to suck. I care about who is going to do what's right for this country. If a Republican will not do right and don't have a solution for this country, then I would never vote for him. I want to go to the minimum wage thing. Minimum wage is not just on the government. I have employees that are entry level in my company, and I do not pay them minimum wage. I pay them far beyond minimum wage. That's not just a president's issue. That's a local issue. That's a business issue as well. States have their own minimum wages. The federal minimum wage is a lot lower than Arizona state minimum wage. I think our minimum wage is like $12 an hour or $13 an hour. It just went up. That has nothing to do with the federal minimum wage. So you complaining about that, in my personal opinion, is not the solution to the problem. The government is not going to fix everything, and I think that we need to understand that. And then also, let's go to your quarrels about the government and all this, and what are black communities doing to help themselves? Because black people have been voting for one party. Let's not say it's Democrat. Let's just take the Democrat Republican out of it. They've been voting one way for 60 years and still complaining. So what does that mean? Every other year there's a Democrat in office. Yeah, what does that mean? That means that you are not voting for your own best interest. That's why you still complaining.
Well, Officer Tatum, I would push back on you by saying this, because I want to make sure that I'm fair to you as well. When you say they, you are a black man, and you're saying they as if you're not a part of the community. Do you realize that? And do you realize?
I'm talking about the ones who voting for the Democrats.
Okay.
They, people like Gary.
That's why I'm asking.
They. When I say they, I'm talking about them black folks that's voting for Democrats. You know, with no demand of anything in return. I hate Republicans because they white, and so I'm going to vote for these Democrats, and they ain't done nothing for black people.
Gary, I will go here, Gary. The minimum wage, the federal minimum wage, has been $7.25 an hour. That has remained unchanged since 2009, from the time Obama was in office, first term. Just wanted to say that. Give you the floor.
So first thing I want to say, brought up tax revenue from the feds. Louisiana gets more from the federal government than we send to the federal government in resources. My state actually needs the federal resources in order to meet the needs of the American people. You can ask Jeff Landry yourself, if the feds cut that federal water off, if he can meet the needs of the people of Louisiana, he's going to tell you no. When the SNAP stuff was cut up, the reason Jeff Landry was in such a tizzy is because all of the grocery store owners are reliant on the ability of those SNAP customers so that they can pay their grocery bills as a grocery owner. So Donnie Rouse, who owns Rouse's Grocery Store, he was concerned about whether or not the SNAP benefits got paid too, because if the people who get SNAP benefits can't pay their SNAP benefits, don't get their SNAP benefits, they're not in the grocery store spending their money with Donnie Rouse. Okay, so when the legislators in the Republican legislature here were concerned about that Fed money, they weren't concerned about their poor white working class workers. I'm not done. They weren't concerned about their poor working class white voters. They were concerned about their business owners who were going to not be able to meet their margin. Second part, when you talk about the money, that's our money. When black people start talking about an investment from the government, that is our tax dollars that we have paid to the government. And everybody gets to ask for their tax dollars to come back to their community, but black people. When black people, you just said we want the government to do it. No, I want the government to be true to what it said on paper. If you're going to take care of the damn roads and bridges, take care of the roads and the bridges in my community too. If you're going to take care of the parks, take care of the parks in my community. In my community, around the corner from me is Glen Oaks High School. It flooded in 2016. When it was repaired, they spent $16 million to repair it. When Baton Rouge High was built, they spent $64 million. When the school that my daughter goes to was built, they spent $60 million. When they built the Struma High School in the black neighborhood, they spent $20 million. I asked them, do the curtains here cost less than the curtains that you put on the building on the other side of town, or you just shorten the black kids over here? So when you talk about some of these things, I'm saying that black people who go to work every day, like my mom and daddy, who live in the same neighborhood I do across the street from me, who've been paying taxes in this community for 30 years, but every time they wake up, there's another resource leaving their community. And it's not at the hands of the black people that they voted for, it's at the hands of the white people who continue to deny the access to the black people because of race. A thing that you continue to deny is a fact.
Is your city council member black that represents your district?
Yes. My city council is majority white. Republican.
No, but is your representative black?
You see, this is one of those moments where you just need to reach over and punch this nigga in the face. The problem with people like Tatum in this discussion is that he really doesn't add any value to the discussion. He's running interference for white supremacy.
That's it.
That's all he's doing.
Stephen A. Smith is helping him do that while claiming that he's an independent while doing that.
Well, yeah,
he's trying to correct him on some factual things, but at the end of the day, he's with Tatum too. Come on, man.
Well, of course
he's with Tatum, but he's not participating in the way that Tatum is, right? He's actually just moderating. But what I'm saying here is that Gary is laying out very constructive, well thought out, data-driven, factual-driven arguments that Tatum cannot argue back against. And Tatum's response is always to heckle and filibuster, like he just said just now. Well, I pay my peoples, above minimum wage. That's not what the fuck we're talking about. We're not talking about your fucking company. We're talking about something very specific, and that's the federal minimum wage. That's what we're talking about here. Federal to state minimum wages. That's the argument. We're not talking about what you pay your employees. We're talking about an actual thing that could go before the Senate, and go before Congress, go before the Senate, and go up to the fucking president's desk. That's what we're talking about. But this guy doesn't even want to hear that. I
complain about immigration, but don't want to raise the minimum wage.
Yeah,
make it make
unreal.
sense.
It's unreal.
And then put the blame on a city council member, which is Gary Chambers' city council member. Well, is your city council member black? Yeah. What the fuck does that have to do with the price of tea in China? What are you talking about? Jesus Christ, man.
Oh my gosh.
Let me let Gary cook.
What part are you missing?
Is the person representing your community?
See, this is where the game
He's at a disadvantage, Officer Tatum, because he's operating in a silo. He's by himself. He's out there.
That's a majority black city.
To me, this is the problem.
This is a lie. No, I'm not. This is the problem. Because this is where conservatives are lying every day.
No, you just made everything about race.
Black city. I live in a majority black city. I have a community where we have never had black people as the majority on the city council because of gerrymandering, and your black ass is sitting here telling me that it doesn't matter.
Now you're assuming that white people are all racist and evil.
I never said that.
So white people can't represent your community because they're white?
Now you're lying. This is a tactic. This is a tactic.
No, it's no tactic. It's no tactic. Just talking. Just talking. Guys. Let me just say, ain't nobody getting cut off, y'all. One at a time. Ain't nobody getting cut off. I'm not editing any of this out. I understand that. You don't get your, the floor is yours. I'm just letting you know you ain't getting cut off. This is not getting edited. I'm letting y'all speak.
Gary,
go ahead, officer.
This is what I would respect what Gary's saying if he said, we have not had proper representation, meaning people have not represented us properly, not because of the color of their skin. You're drawing representation properly being met with because they ain't never let a black person do it. Are you saying that white people, you saying that white people are inherently against black people in representation?
I'm saying the white men that are represented here are trash.
You saying none of the white people care about none of the black people in your city?
This is a tactic.
He didn't say that.
No, I'm asking. You keep saying we ain't done nothing until they get a black person in. No. You saying the problem is because there's majority white. That's what you said. You're not saying they're majority corrupt. You saying
real quickly, Gary, go ahead. Gary, real quickly, go ahead and answer. Real quickly,
go ahead and answer. I'm going to say that, and you may agree with me here, that if you're from a community, if you were born and raised in a certain community, I was born and raised in North Baton Rouge in the Glen Oaks area. I understand Glen Oaks. The majority of the people who live here are black. That happens to be a part of my cultural understanding, okay? There are certain things that I experienced growing up in this neighborhood that a white person that grew up in Kenilworth may not have experienced. Therefore, the person who is white from Kenilworth does not have the same lived experience as me, so I don't want that person to represent me. So I'm not done. So I would rather someone who has a same lived experience, who cares about some of the same things. That's what the white people are asking for every day. Why when black people ask for it, is it somehow wrong?
How do you think, where do you see white people asking for stuff like that?
They don't have to say white. They say stuff like people with the same moral fabric as us, people who have the same cultural beliefs as us. The shit you were saying 5 minutes ago.
My cultural beliefs are American beliefs. What are you saying?
What the hell is an American belief?
What do you mean? Loving your country, working hard,
just
living the American dream.
So if you believe that that's an American belief, why is it acceptable for America to just go into other countries and snatch their presidency? Would that be acceptable for somebody to come over here and snatch our president? Would you think that shit was acceptable?
Well, if we let them do it, then they'll do it.
No. You're not answering the question. See, some of the things that we do to create conflict.
I don't have a problem with our president going.
Yo, man, you can't make this shit up, man. Officer Tatum is terrible at fucking debate, man. He is terrible at debate, but he reminds me so much of the manosphere. Just sort of, well, if you just let it happen, then then it's all your fault. It's always about personal responsibility when it comes to asking, these sort of broader base, geopolitical and domestic questions. But when it comes to, Democrats, it's all about all Democrats and y'all been voting Democrat for 60 years and Democrats with a party of slavery. It's always this sort of all encompassing when it comes to Democrats, but when it comes to Republicans, it's all individualism.
Yeah. Pull yourself up by bootstraps and all. These guys, like I said, these guys are just incredible self-hating shines. And they're against their own community. And this is being shown. That's why I like these kind of interviews and this stuff coming out, because you can see exactly where these people are really coming from. They can't really hide their true positions. They can't hide it. They can't hide it.
Going and removing.
I'm about to right here.
I don't mind that our president.
Hold on, fellas. One at a time.
If you don't think it's acceptable for somebody to come over here and snatch our president, why the hell is it acceptable for America to go around the world and snatch people's presidents, decide who can have what, and you can't even fix your own fucking country. You can't even you're in debt up to your neck. I'm talking.
Why do we go
in debt to our neck? We're in debt to our neck talking about national defense, and you can't even protect the people.
Why do we get Maduro? Why do we go and extract Maduro from
oil?
That's your opinion.
Oil.
Maduro committed crimes. Maduro committed crimes against the United States. Maduro committed crimes against.
Nobody's acting like he didn't commit crimes. Two things can be true. Nobody's acting like he didn't commit crimes. But let's not act like we ain't over there for that oil.
No, that's actually not true anymore. If you look at the actual case, and I'll bring it up and I'll put it in the case notes in the docket beneath description beneath the video. The charges that were levied against Maduro in terms of drug trafficking and whatnot were thrown out. There was no evidence to support that.
Obviously, they were going to be found out. Obviously, they're going to be thrown out.
Yeah, there's no evidence to support that. All those boats and stuff that the United States military were lighting up in the Caribbean. There's no evidence that there were drugs on it and that those were drug traffickers. So where's the evidence to support that he broke American? And plus, how do you prosecute somebody in another country where you have no jurisdiction for the very laws that you claim that he violated? What laws did he violate? How can you violate laws, American laws, in another country that's not American? It doesn't make any sense.
Let's act like we ain't here for the oil.
Let me talk.
Netanyahu is a current war criminal.
Gary, let him talk. Gary, let him talk. Let him talk, Gary. Let him talk.
So, it's not as simple as oil. He committed crimes against the United States of America. He was not a duly elected president. We went in and held him accountable in the United States for his crimes. That's why we extracted him. But also, here's your thing. You keep saying, why we over there doing this? And if we over there for oil, the oil benefits America. Does it not? So therefore, we're making an investment to go over there to make sure we have control of oil. What do you mean? It doesn't. So what?
Guys, let me throw this last question out to both of y'all. I got a conservative and a liberal in front of me talking with one another right here. And one of the things that I've lamented throughout the years is the fact that there's such a divide in this country, period, but especially with black folks when it comes to political affiliations, that somehow, some way, how do you get to a point where if you can't come together, you can agree without being disagreeable? I'm not saying y'all were disagreeable or anything like that. I'm not going there. I'm just saying I think everybody needs to hear from people like both of y'all about educating yourself, edifying yourself, communicating with one another in a fashion where somehow, some way, this divide, this schism that exists doesn't have to be as glaring as society has proven it's been in recent memory, as some would say it's proven to be right now with the two of you talking. Is there any way that the gap can be closed where you can imagine yourselves finding some level of common ground? I'm talking about politically speaking. I'm talking about in terms of your ideology, your thoughts.
I think 100%. If we love our country, we respect our country, we believe in the American dream, we believe in capitalism, and we can come together on that principle. And we believe in the founding, which the founding was a Christian nation. They believe in God and all of those things. If we come together on those points, we can figure out and weave through some of our disagreements. But at the end of the day, man, you have to believe in the Constitution. You have to love this country. You don't have to like the entire history, but you got to have respect for where we came from and where we are today. If we can acknowledge that, I think the rest of it is history. We'll begin to come together. We'll begin to vote very similarly and not use these, political biases to distract us. Because I'm black. I grew up in a black community. I grew up in Fort Worth, Texas. I grew up in Stop 6, got Eastwood tattooed on my forearm, went to Dunbar High School, all black school, my whole family black. So I have a black experience in this country just like you do, Gary. And I honestly believe if we come to those agreements that I said and we see it through that lens, I think we'll agree on and probably vote very similarly, on a broad perspective.
Gary, your thoughts?
Number one, I think healthy black folk debates get loud, bombastic, and all of that stuff. That thing that is it's venomous, right? Black folk can cuss each other out and still be in love with each other 2 seconds.
That's right.
I think these discussions are necessary because they iron sharpens iron. Number two, I think that I'm black first. Before I'm anything, I'm black. My mom and daddy, when they conceived me, the first thing they knew about me, before they knew I was going to be a boy, before they knew if I was going to be a girl, before they knew what sexual orientation and all they did, religion or any of those things, the first thing they knew about me, he going to be black. And because America has made decisions about black people from its inception, from the founding of this country, made determinations about black people, wrote laws about black people, denied black people their access to the ballot box, denied black people freedom, raped our women, stole us from other lands, and even once given us freedom, has made us fight for every inch of that freedom to maintain it and continues to fight with us with that. I will not deny those facts because those facts still permeate through laws and policies that exist in this country.
So are you saying, is that your way of saying in order for conservatives and liberals, particularly those who happen to be black, to come closer together, there has to be an acknowledgement in your eyes on the other side that those things that you just pointed out are a reality that are inescapable? Before
if we're talking about America, before we're talking about black people, we're not on the same page.
That's the problem.
No, that is the problem, that you are more committed to America than to your own humanity.
What you mean by humanity, dude? I'm an American, you an American.
I'm a human before I'm an American.
Yeah, you can say you're a human, but you live.
I'm one of God's children before I'm American. And if you believe in that Bible you say you believe in, are you more God's child or more an American?
I'm more God's child than American.
Or if you're more God's child than God.
Let me speak, Gary. Go ahead.
See, if people listen to this, they notice that Gary is living in the past, and I'm talking about us reuniting in the future. Everybody knows what slavery is all about. Now, Gary kind of misled when he said that they stole us off of these places. We were traded into slave trade imprisoned and enslaved by other black people that then sold us around the world. So that point, we acknowledge that. There are ills that happen in this country, and black people took the brunt of a lot of it. We weren't the only ones, but we took the brunt of a lot of it. This country has not always been great to black people. I acknowledge that. Can we understand that? But to act as if we're still living in this perpetual state of racism that has something to do with your everyday life, that we ain't never gonna be able to come together if you believe that, man. If you say you black first, that's crazy. That's like a white man saying, I'm white first.
They are.
That's exactly what the Trump administration is saying. What are you talking about? Pete Hegseth with that big ass tattoo on his chest. What do you think that is? What do you think Stephen Miller is? What do you think Stephen what's the other one?
Steve Miller?
Stephen Miller, but the other one, the heavyset one.
Bannon.
Yeah, Steve Bannon. What do you think they are? What do you think they are? Like, what do you think Russell Volt and all these, what do you think these people are? They all about the white man being first and second and third. What do you think that is?
They don't want to acknowledge that. They don't want to acknowledge that out front because, it really gets in the way of their narrative.
In fact, they're suing organizations on the idea that DEI is discriminating against white men.
That's right.
So what are we talking about here?
But
they wrong then. They wrong then.
America is white first, man.
No, America is not white first.
America considered you property. You were
That's a long time ago, bro.
Sir, let me ask you something. This is where the disconnect comes from for us. When you say they traded black people, if you were traded, would you consider that you were stolen or traded? If it was you, if somebody took you right now and against your will and took you to another country, would you consider that you were traded or would you consider that you were stolen?
If somebody enslaved me and sold me to these white people, I would consider that I was traded by my own people.
Okay, so where you and I differ is a fundamental understanding.
There's no fundamental. This is historical fact. We were enslaved in Africa and sold through slave trade around the world. Majority of us went to South America.
We did.
United States of America that we know today.
If you would not consider yourself stolen, that's something wrong with your internal compass.
Stolen by who?
Whoever stole you,
by black and white people, by black and white people, I was stolen.
I'm trying to figure out off the state of what the hell is wrong with looking at yourself as black first before you're anything else, black before you're American, black before you're anything else. What's wrong with that?
Okay, because all black people ain't the same, and like for instance, we all different. So when I say I'm black, what does that mean? The color of my skin.
Can I interject right there?
No. Black people from New York is different than black people from the South. Black people from Africa that came over here as immigrants are very different than African Americans. We're all different. We're diverse like anybody else. When white people say I'm white first, what does that mean?
I would ask that. Forget. I don't want to forget white folks, but I'm like, forget. We're not talking about them at this particular moment. Let's stick with black people in this regard. When you talk about the slave trade, and you said we were enslaved and then traded all over the world. Who are those people? Black people.
Well,
I'm simply saying if you identify with that from an historical perspective, these are my ancestors. This is what we endured. This is where I come from, and that's what I identify with first. Because to some degree, I'm still feeling some remnants of that even in today's society. I'm saying if you identify yourself as black before you identify yourself as American, what you're doing is saying coming out of the womb, I'm going to be at a disadvantage because I'm in America and I'm going to have to scratch and claw and have an uphill climb. Now that doesn't mean you give up. That doesn't mean you use it as a crutch. It doesn't mean that you sit up there and use that as a reason to be lackadaisical and have a defeatist attitude and don't work your way and maneuver your way through that terrain in order to get to that point. But it does mean you at least acknowledging that, there are historical, insidious acts that are associated with this particular nation that I live in. And as a result, I recognize the fact that I'm going to have to march forward and it's going to be a uphill climb for me to get to where I'm going. If somebody identifies that with blackness, you can do that.
But Stephen A., that's not always true that every black person have to suffer an uphill climb. That's not true. And we'll go back to like what I said. My ancestors came from Nigeria, so I know that, through my Ancestry.com research, that my people came over here as slaves. Not every black person in America came from slavery. It wasn't the case. Not every black person in America migrated here and was in the South. Some of them went to the North and were in indentured service, and they never were slaves. Some black people came over here and became slave owners and were not slaves themselves. So it's a very dynamic differentiation between the experience of black people in its totality as existing in America. So me saying I'm black first before I'm an American, I think that's a misnomer. I think that's you're pigeonholing yourself, because if you are going to say I'm black, that means negative. you're putting yourself at a disadvantage, man. And I say I'm an American first because I believe in American values. My ancestors fought that I can be free in this country. All of our ancestors were not the same, didn't come from the same countries, didn't speak the same languages. We are a diverse people. And we don't need to be looking at a skin color, because I don't agree with a lot of stuff black people do. We ain't the same people. If you sagging your pants and gang banging and doing stuff that you're not supposed to, we ain't the same. If you doing the right thing and raising your kids and having a family and doing all that stuff, then we are more similar. I have more similarities with white people than I do with some black people. So I don't wake up out of the womb. And I think about my kids. I'm in a blended family. I'm in a mixed family. Kids don't wake up every morning and be like, I'm black. No, what do you mean? You're born in America. You're an American.
Okay.
I'm so glad.
Gary, I'm going to give you the last word because I got to end this soon. I'm going to give you the last word, but go ahead.
America is very specific about how it's handled black folks. You ever heard the word octoroon, Brother Tatum?
No, I haven't.
You know what? Well, you don't know what octoroon is. An octoroon is somebody who's 1/8 black. Okay? You ever heard of the word mulatto, I'm sure. Mulatto means you mix half black. You ever heard that before?
I've heard of the 1-drop rule and I heard of mulatto.
Okay, so in a country that has the ability to label whether you 1/8 black, they got a word for it. The Pope would be considered an octoroon. Pope Leo would be considered an American octoroon. I know this because this is the history of America, that we were so specific. We have been so specific in this country that there are people who left this state to go other places to play white in order to get away with not having to deal with the issues of what they do to black people.
They used to.
Brother, my mother turns 80. My beautiful mother turns 80 on June 18th. She went to segregated schools in this country.
But she don't know more.
But because she had to fight tooth and nail in order for you and I to be able to sit here having this conversation.
So now you need to move on.
And because the things that my mother fought for, they're attempting to do away with today. So we have to continue to fight every day. And maybe you don't understand that this is a struggle for black people because you identify as American before you identify as black. But I identify as black first. And black people have made America as good as it is today. Because this moralist, sinful nation would not have come to the promise that it is today if it weren't for black people demanding more of this country.
And it wouldn't be as bad as it is today if it went for some black people cutting up every day.
Last point, Stephen, I want to make a point. He said that Democrats ain't do nothing. I want to bring up the governor of Maryland and the mayor of Baltimore. April, Baltimore had 4 homicides. May, they had 8 homicides. Historically, those cities had 30 homicides a month. In 2020, before this man was the mayor, they were having 20 and 30 homicides a month. The black governor, that's a Democrat, sent resources to the black mayor, that's a Democrat, and now there's a low crime rate
in the white police officers
in a majority black city with a majority black police force.
So the police officers did well.
The Democrats, the black Democrats did that.
So after years of failing Maryland, they did well now.
After when you finally put black people in charge, shit got cleaned up.
That's not true. Black people have been.
You got a black governor and a black mayor. You got a black governor and a black mayor, and the lowest homicide that you've had in that city in the last 100 years.
Because they're black? Is you saying they did it because they're black?
Because they know how to communicate with black people and effectively address the issues of black people.
And so white people can't.
They didn't.
Let me say this to y'all. I'm gonna end this
right now. Put the gun in a black boy's hand and tell him.
Argue with me on them numbers of them 4 homicides in April.
I'll go look it up. I can't fact check it, but I'll fact check it.
4 homicides in April,
Off the Tatum, Gary Chambers, let me say this to both of y'all, right? I got to end this right now. But I want you to know this is the first time that I've done this. And I've always planned on doing something just like this. Cats from both sides of the aisle, particularly from the black community, that could debate the issues. Because one of the things that I always get disgusted by, Gary, is that if you don't march lockstep as a leftist with the Democratic Party, you consider to sell out and called every name under the sun. I love the fact that you talked about it. It ain't about Republican or Democrat. For black people. Officer Tatum, whether you like it or not, whether you like him or not, the bottom line is what he said. He says, I'm an American citizen. These are my beliefs. This is the ideology that I fall on, et cetera, et cetera. All of that ain't necessary. The point is we'll never get anywhere if we can't have a discussion with each other. And both of y'all did just that for my first episode of doing this. I really, really appreciate it. Y'all both set a big time standard for everybody to follow. And you know both of y'all are welcomed on any time. You know that this is family here. You understand? Both of y'all are welcomed on the show any damn time you want to come on. I really, really appreciate it. Edifying and educating my viewers and listeners and all of
that. Man of Tomorrow, any closing thoughts?
All conservatism is performative. It's not beneficial to anybody. Conservatism is about being white-faced, talking to another black person about how whites are so great and that you can't do anything because you're black. It's amazing that this person has so many views based on the fact that he would sell out his own people in a heartbeat. It's crazy, but thanks for having me on.
You're going 11?
Yeah, it shows you pretty much white conservative has no white conservatism, as we see it, has zero value for us in the Black community. Doesn't help us. You know, and it doesn't help. It hasn't helped you advance socially. It hasn't helped you advance economically in this country. In fact, you have made there are no jobs types of programs or anything else like that we've gotten, or educational programs that we've gotten through the white conservative through the white conservative system. So it doesn't work for us. Anybody who's on that side is a white supremacist and your enemy. Anyway, that's pretty much it, Mike. I really appreciate you bringing bringing me up on this. And as I say, those people who consider themselves conservatives and have a conversation together, I don't want to have a conversation with you. I really don't. In fact, what I want to do is I want to find better ways to eliminate you.
My closing thoughts on this is that conservatism, Black conservatism, is based on being American first. Okay, your racial identity, your tribal identity has been forfeited at the expense of your community, and they think that if they do this, then this will socially advance them, when it's been presented in this debate multiple times how underperforming conservative states, conservative leadership in conservative states have been operating. It's been highlighted that this administration currently does not have the best interests of working class people, and specifically Black people in this instance. The amount of lawsuits that have been filed against this administration by Black people who have been pushed out of federal positions and in the private sector as well, all because of an agenda of being white first. You have a Black man sitting on the panel who's telling you that he doesn't think that white people identify as white first, when in fact all of their actions have proven that and then some. And so people need to understand that when you make these arguments, and this is a person with millions of followers on his behalf, Officer Tatum, when you make these arguments, you disqualify yourself from any future political discussions. There is no way that you can have an honest discussion with somebody who obfuscates the facts and ignores the history. Just like he just told Gary Chambers a few seconds ago before closing, you need to get over it. That's exactly what racist people tell Black people, to get over slavery. Stop talking about reparations. Then he turns back around and says, to go to Republicans to talk about reparations, when in fact Republicans have no interest in reparations. I don't know any other way to really close this out other than saying that Black conservatives serve the interest and act as surrogates for white supremacy.
Yes, and look, that is a Black job.
Mm-hmm. All right. Thank you all for joining us. Please hit the like button on the way out. Share the video if possible. Hit that notification bell so you get all the updates from the Black Brain Trust.